Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? Because it's time to put them on. Because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You done dropped back in on the spot. This is the place where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. Today we're going to talk about your babies. Your little itty bitty babies. Not them grown ones, but the little ones. Early childhood education is on the tip of everybody's tongue. And I'm going to talk to my minority, my people of color. You know, our kids are behind the eight ball when they go to school. Number one, they're going to substandard schools. They're not getting the benefits or the money or the resources or the teachers to really help them thrive. We got parents at home that's still talking goo goo gaga when you should be talking to them like regular people and reading to them, encouraging them to be off the device, go outside and play in the dirt, learn different things like we did once upon a time, because that cultivates their mind. A person told me not too long ago that this generation is about 10 years developmentally delayed from what we were at that age. So the struggle is real. The funding is not coming into the communities. So what we have to do is each one must teach one. Folks got in-home daycares. I don't need a babysitter. You know, teach them how to do something. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. Read to them, because that enhances your business and it gives you a sense of purpose. You're not just their babysitter. You're their mentor. You're their temporary mom or dad. The daycare provider might give them more love than they get at home. So we're going to talk about all that and then some with an expert. Daphene Booker Harris has been doing this, and she is doing it well. She is turning early childhood education and in-home daycares and daycare facilities on its head. And I'm so glad to have her here because this is so needed. Welcome to On the Edge. How are you, Mrs. Harris?
I'm doing wonderful, and I am so glad to be here. I am so glad that you invited me on the podcast to just share a little bit about early childhood education, because I tell people all the time that early childhood educators are the unsung heroes,
Yes,
right? They're the unsung heroes in the community. And I don't think the world realized until the pandemic happened that we were the unsung heroes, because when everybody went home, they realized that they needed somebody to take care of them babies, because the essential workers had to continue even in a pandemic. So I'm super excited to be able to share my expertise and the things about early childhood education that people just really don't know. And I'm glad to just be on your platform today.
well, you know what? And another thing that they uncovered, girl, they didn't know who them little people was that lived with them. When the teachers wasn't going to school and they had to homeschool, the parents figured out how ignorant they were. Okay,
Yeah.
they realized that all those notes that the teacher was sending home, that your child was distracted and this, that, and the other. Now they see what it is, how hard it is to do these things. But if you have, number one, a discipline, because kids need discipline. I'm not talking about corporal punishment, even though a little tap on the booty never hurt me. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a discipline. We're talking about a structure. We're talking about a routine. We're talking about respect. Teaching them to respect their little playmates, the teachers, how to wash your hands. All
Yes.
these are simple, basic things that we thought that our children knew, and they don't know. So tell me a little bit about your experience and how you got started in the area of childhood education.
Well, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me, and my grandmother had a childcare center. Her and my grandfather had a childcare center. It was connected to the church when I was small, and when I became an adult, in my 20s, I was I was kind of struggling, trying to find my way in life, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one day I sat down and said that whatever I do, that I wanted to make an impact on the world. And I started writing down all the places that I've gone that left an impact on me as a child. And every fond memory that I had led back to my grandparents' childcare center.
Mm.
So that spiked my interest. I said the most impactful time of my life was when I was in childcare, right? So I started researching how to open a childcare center because now I'm an adult and my grandparents is deceased. They're gone on to glory. So I don't have them to guide my hand to lead me to what I needed to do. So I started researching and taking classes. That was over 16 years ago. And I first started in my home because all I had was a passion and I had a dream. That's it.
That's all you
Because
need.
that's all I had. I didn't have no money. I didn't have any of that because I didn't even think past the money part. I just knew that I wanted to make an impact on children. And so I started in my home first over 16 years ago. And when I started in my home, I went from no children to 7 children in 30 days, and from
Wow.
7 children to 14 children in 60 days, right? And so then as I grew in my home, I made it all the way up to 30 children.
Wow.
And and I realized, y'all, I did all of that and I didn't have license.
Mm.
I didn't have license, right? So I connected with a principal at an elementary school, and she said, well, you can use my cafeteria to bring some of your children. But in the meantime, we're going to get your license. So I went through the process of becoming a licensed childcare provider. And so once I became a licensed childcare provider, they licensed me for 7 children, y'all, 7 kids, and I had 30, right? That didn't add up. That didn't add up like my 7, and then I can have a few more to make it to 12. But I had like 30 kids that I was trying to. So I realized quickly that I couldn't do the in-home thing because I had already maximized my potential in that area. So that's when I sought out to move to a commercial center, and I started that journey. And in 2012, I opened my first commercial center, which is my OG location that I call my OG location is Daffy Duck Learning Academy.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and it's my nickname, which my family called me Duck. And I took my first name and shortened it as Daffy. That's how I came up with the name, because at that time I didn't know how to create a name that was impactful to the world. I just knew that I wanted to take all the experience that I had as a child and give it back to other children. So that started my journey in the commercial setting in 2012. And when I tell you the first few years of entrepreneurship was a battle, it was a struggle. It was a
Struggle is real.
struggle because I didn't really understand business, right? I knew how to care for children. And when I went through the process of opening my childcare center, the state gave me a book and said, these are the rules and regulations, and this is how you protect children and keep them safe. And this is what's required. But nobody set me down and said, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, these are the things that's required of you. This is what you're going to need to have in place to safeguard your business. And
Right.
so for the first 10 years of doing business, can I be transparent, Miss
Girl,
April?
please pull it off. Pull it
All right.
off. 'Cause I'm going to tell you my story in a minute.
So the first 10 years of business, I didn't really do business, y'all. I did business because I didn't really understand business, right? I didn't realize that I couldn't commingle funds. I didn't realize that I needed to use a EIN number instead of my social security number because I just told y'all all I had was a passion and a dream. That's it. And so my first few years of being an entrepreneur, I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I didn't see anybody that looked like me that was doing what I wanted to do and was doing it professionally. All right. That was doing it where you was really doing business. And so on that journey, I made a lot of mistakes. I went through lawsuits. I went through losing staff. I went through losing children. I went through all of that. But in that journey, I said, once I learned this, once I really master early childhood education, because I've mastered that part, but I really don't know business.
Right.
Once I master business, I'm going to take it all back to people, to other entrepreneurs, and teach them really how to do business in the early childhood education realm, because I realized that they didn't know how to do business because the early childhood has the stigma of being a babysitter, right?
Exactly. It's labeled because that's my deal, girl. So Mr. Magnificent said, "Well, baby, you had the baby." He said, "And you don't want to go back to work." I said, "I don't." I said, "But I need some adult conversation or some other conversation." So I said, "Well, I'll open a little childcare." So I did. I went and got my license. I got my information on how to get subsidized for the food program. I got myself a little extra liability insurance in case one of them slipped and bust a noodle. But all of that, but honey, what I didn't know was the amount of work and patience and tolerance. So I call myself, I get them all the same age. Girl, they all hungry at the same time. They all need to be changed at the same time. They all nap at the same time and they all wake back up at the same time. Mamas bring them when they sick because they have to go to work. The kid you want to be loving, you want to nurture, and then you want to hold them. Then the other one is jealous. Girl, I tell you, well, mine was short-lived, about a year and a half, and I went and found a child care provider and took her. But let me tell you, I interviewed her. I looked at her surroundings. I showed up when she did not expect me. And that woman was so loving and caring to my daughter. My daughter started calling her mama. Sometimes my feelings wasn't hurt because those 40 hours a week, she was my child's mother. But my child was potty trained when she was ready within about 3 or 4 days with love. They fail to realize that potty training is a discipline. It's you have to teach them just like walking and talking, and parents get so upset with that. Or they let that child be 3 years old, still walking around in a pissy, shitty diaper, getting a yeast infection and all this kind of stuff. It's a lot to this. And then the component, she taught her Spanish. She taught her love. I mean, when she went to kindergarten, they wanted to put her in first grade because she was prepared. So you went through this, you got the entrepreneur, you got your business. So now you're setting this up and you're teaching this to other entrepreneurs. What are some basic tips that a child care provider should know from the onset before even considering taking care of other people's kids? What are some things that they need to consider, Daphene?
Just piggybacking on what you said, you talked about, you spoke from a pain point of an entrepreneur that's trying to start, and you spoke from a pain point of a parent, right? And so when you're starting out, that's what you have to think about. You have to think about what problem are you solving for your community.
All right, now.
You want to be a problem solver. You want to solve the problem of the people. But when you decide that when you identify what their problem is, you got to make sure you have systems in place, right? And when you talk about potty training, you have to have a potty training system. You can't just bring a child in your program and say, I'm a potty train them, and they're going to be potty trained by a certain length of time. No, you have to have a potty training system in order for it to work. In order for it to work, because remember, kids learn by repetition. They learn by what they see every day. They learn by doing stuff over and over and over again. And all of that is a system. So when you're talking about opening a childcare center, from potty training to your curriculums, to your circle time, to arts and craft, to everything that you do in your program has to be systemized, right? It has to operate off of a system, because you wonder why children, you meet some children and they're so beyond their years. You say, oh my God, they're so smart, they know so much. It's not because they're smarter than the next child. It's because they've been put in a routine, they've been put in a system that causes them to retain the information. When they're under the age of 5, their brains are like little sponges. They can remember a lot of things if you do it consistently. You can't bring children in your program and do circle time on a Monday, then don't do it again till Thursday and expect for them to leave there knowing all the foundational things that they need to know. No, you have to have a routine where every day at 9 o'clock we singing good morning, good morning. My name is, because why? That child will be able to articulate their first and last name because you did it every day.
Girl, what cracked me up is when they say, I said, what's your mother's name? Mommy.
That's because
okay,
their parents not teaching it to them. They're not teaching them their name. They
your
teach
child
them
needs to know your first and last name. They need to know their first and last name. They need to know their telephone number. They need to know their address. You need to teach them about stranger danger when they Google and Gaga. Okay, these are just basic things, and then we expand into numbers and activities and letters and putting these letters together and reading to your child. Reading just transports you into another place and time.
Yes. When you talk about stranger danger and system, talking about safety, we have a safety curriculum in my programs where the parents sign off on the safety curriculum, where we talk to them about safe touches and safe conversations and being put in dangerous situations. If you're put in a dangerous situation, and for any reason, if you're removed from your parent or you separated from your parent, how they should respond to that. They'll be able, and in that, we have like little cue cards, right? Like little cards. And on those cards, we have the child name, they have their first last name, it has the parent first last name, the parent's address, and their phone number, and their date of birth. These are the basic things that we have on that emergency card. And so when we teach them the safety curriculum, those are the things that we make sure if anybody asks you what's your name, you don't say poo poo.
Right. My name Pookie. My name Pookie.
You're able to say, my name is Jefferson Davis.
Right.
My mom is Takesha Jones. They're able to say their parents' name because why? We went through it in the safety curriculum. That's a part of the curriculum that the parents sign off on their children to learn. And so that's what a lot of times people don't realize, the small things that early childhood education offer to children. Have you ever been at the fair or a circus or somewhere and a child was separated from their parents and they stand there?
Let me tell you what my child did. Let me tell you what my child did to me, and I came up out the ground. We in the department store, and I tell you, they get away lickety split, and I couldn't find her, and I thought somebody had snatched her. But I knew if they had snatched her, they'd bring her back because my child would kick, bite, scratch, and she gonna tell. Okay. I couldn't find her. I looked about 35 minutes. Well, she called herself hiding from me in one of those roundabouts. She was hid up in the clothes. Girl, when I found her, my whole body just got contorted. She started screaming, "Don't beat me! Don't beat me!" Now, she know I wasn't going to beat her till we got to the car. No, I'm just kidding. But no, but don't beat me. And I said, Chanel, you have to stay close to mommy. You have to stay close to mommy. And parents, I don't care what you say. they will get away. You turn around and you grabbing something, you getting the ice cream, you getting the sandwich from the sandwich bar, and they are gone.
Yes.
They are
And
gone.
so that's a part of our safety curriculum. You know, we teach the children about separation. If they get separated from their parents, what to do if you're separated from your parent, not to continue to walk, to just stand in that one spot. And when an adult approach you, you tell them your name and your parent name and their number so they can contact them. Ask them, could they help you call your parent? These are some of the things that we teach them in the safety curriculum, because I don't think parents realize that the small things is what the kids need to learn how to do in order for them to be productive, because life happens, right? Like you just said,
Yeah.
your daughter got away. And what if, some kids don't know how to respond because they haven't been exposed to safety curriculums. That's why you see
Let me
kids
interject and tell you one more quick little story. And this person's gonna be mad, but I'm gonna call him out because I was hotter than fish grease. My son, his daughters were traveling. They are traveling in the airport. The airport is one of the most dangerous places on the planet right now. And I said, son, I said, do they have identification? He looked at me. I said, somebody could say fire, somebody could say bomb, somebody could say terrorist attack, shooting, anything, and these two are separated. They do not, they are 13 and 15, and they did not know his phone number outside of in the device. They don't have ID. I said, what if they get sick? They have a military ID card that they show them and the world's open up to them. We cannot assume. I told you that these kids are 10 years developmentally delayed. Now we're talking about a 13 and a 15-year-old. You know, we're not talking about the 60 or 65-year-old that's got Alzheimer's or dementia. Okay, you got to tag them too. You have to retrain them. But it is a training. Please take this seriously. The world is different now. Kids are lured away from you. So I am so glad that this is a part, and this is something that we are reiterating, because this is a part of the learning process. They do not come with instructions. Okay? You've got children that have got autism, you've got children that have other health challenges, diabetes, all this other stuff that we have to contend with, that the child care provider or child care services take that on. They make sure your child has their insulin checked. They're going to make sure that if they have to take medication, that is their responsibility. You need to work in conjunction with them and have a watchful eye and be respectful of these people that are taking care of your children. Yes, there's going to be bad people wherever you go, whatever you do. But if you are working with the administration and there's something that come up strange, I would really, I'm going to tell y'all something. I was talking and pre-interviewing Daphne, and somebody opened that door. Baby, she said, wait. You don't open my door. She makes sure, yeah. And I was like, okay. I didn't know who she was talking to. When she came back, she said, oh no, she said, my children's safety, they are in my protection. That comes first. You do not open my door for somebody unless you contact me. Now, see, that's care. That's care. She didn't care about nothing else but those children's safety. And I commend you for that. And also the business part of it.
I was going to piggyback off of that, with everything that's going on in the world, with people going into these schools, maniacs shooting up schools, if you look it up, they shooting up childcare centers, elementary schools, because they have issues, mental issues going on. And a lot of things could be prevented if the people at the top would put safety first. If you put those things in place to protect the children and not allow any and everybody in your program, a lot of these incidents could have been prevented if you just don't let them in. Like we have a device on the door where the door does not open on the outside or the inside. On the inside, you have to wave your hand in order for the door to open. And they can't open the door from the outside unless an employee has a badge to open the door. And the parents, before COVID, the parents will have a code to open the door. But now, since, because of so many infectious disease, you had to kind of curb the people coming in and out the building. So the parents just have to bring the kids. We have curbside, where they bring the kids to curbside and we bring the children in because of safety. And that's why I can proudly say that our programs, have not been affected by, COVID, so many kids getting sick simply because we have cut down on the amount of traffic in our programs and not allowing outsiders in, because that's how infectious disease happened. That's how a whole pandemic happens, because no, you don't have provisions in place
All
to
this,
the kids. Yeah.
really, and
Hand washing.
and they love on each other, and the boogies just trample. But I want to talk about the business. I want to go back to the business side of it, because you know what? It's a business. Don't get it twisted. To take care of somebody's child, and it's expensive. They were just talking about that yesterday, and I was telling my husband, I said, I'm about to talk to Daphene Harris about this. In all transparency, sometimes parents opt not to go to work because of the cost of childcare. But we just explained to you all that entails, and then giving them a balanced meal. Teaching them how to eat fruits and vegetables, not just giving them cookies, not just sitting them in front of the cartoons all day, but interacting with them. That is a skill, and that needs to be rewarded. That needs to be acknowledged. That needs to be recognized. Talk to us a little bit about, the dollars and cents aspect of it. What is the cost of an in-home daycare versus a center these days?
Well, in-home daycare, a lot of in-home providers, they have a base rate that they can charge, because they have different rules and regulations in an in-home childcare center. So depending on what state you're in right now, how much childcare costs. In some states, you can pay up to and $75 a week or
Week.
more for childcare. And so in-home centers charge, anywhere between $175 to $200 a week, depending on their state. In some states where the cost of living is higher, then you're going to pay more for childcare. Whereas when you're down south, it's still expensive, but it's not as expensive as where
It's expensive
people.
here in California. It is crazy,
So
crazy.
I want to say, I think y'all market is about $400 and some dollars a week
Yeah,
for an
yeah.
infant. It's like $400 and some dollars a week for an
So
infant.
400 times four, that's $1,600. And then wait, $1,600, you're paying $2,200 for a one bedroom. You're paying $7 for gas.
And so what happens a lot of times is childcare is expensive. It really is. And what we do in our programs, if we have parents that come in and they get a tour and we go over their childcare package that they're requesting, and we see where they are financially, and see if they say, oh my goodness, this is really expensive. And I can't afford it. So at that point, we will refer them to the different programs. We'll look at their qualifications, ask them a few questions about their income, and see what programs that they have that they qualify for. And we will help them through the application process. And the process typically takes anywhere between 7 to 14 days to help offset some of that childcare cost. A lot of times, if their income is under a certain amount, they automatically qualify for a lot of the services that they have in place. With a lot of the COVID laws and that have came in place, that Biden has put in place for early childhood education, he's tried to bridge the gap between work and childcare simply
Right.
because what they're trying to do in these reform acts is to build the economy back up by helping people go back to work.
Yeah.
And doing so is helping them find affordable childcare, where they're trying to make childcare affordable to parents. So they know that parents can't afford childcare because most of the time their income is not that high. So
And this is the time of the great resignation. Girl, folks ain't wanting to go back because they're not finding the value. They can't keep up. You know, we had all this big hoopla about a minimum wage of $15.50, which is still chump change. Okay.
Yeah.
But then your
So
gas goes up, your food goes up. And a lot of times, Brains, you hear this all the time. These children, the only well-balanced meal that they may get is at that child care center or at school. Our governor implemented that. I don't care whether you can afford it or not. Every child will have breakfast and lunch at school. And that is there. And you see them and they don't have clothes, or they have rashes, or they have been abused in some kind of way. I want to talk to you about that, and then I want to move on to a little bit of some other great things that you're doing. But you have a right and a mandate to report if you see any of these things going on. I'm sure that is one of the most difficult things. Number one, seeing the child every day, knowing that they're going through something at home, but be mandated to report on that.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult things to of my profession, is to report a parent, right? And so if it's abuse, if they're being abused, we are mandated to report that. If a child's safety is at stake, we are mandated to report that. So we do have to report it and write reports and go through the process. And a lot of times what happens is, depending on the severity of the abuse, they're removed from those homes and they're put in a temporary situation where the state have to appoint someone to take care of them if they don't have a family member in line to take care of them. And so what have happened in our program before, it wasn't abuse where the parent was abusing the child. It was just it was negligence, not bathing the child, wasn't the child didn't have clean clothes and all of that. And so I have a soft spot for removing parents from their children if there's a way that you can bridge that gap and try to help them. And so what we did was, when I had a conversation with the young lady, I realized that she just simply did not know. Nobody taught her how to wash clothes. Nobody taught her how to bathe appropriately, because she was 21 years old with 4 children. So she started having children at an early age, and nobody really taught her how to be a mom.
A baby teaching a baby.
So what we did was get her into parenting classes, and we also refer her into a program where they came out and they taught her how to wash dishes. They taught her how to wash her clothes. They taught her how to clean the house, because nobody had taught her this. Because when she told me, she sat down and said, well, my mom was on drugs. I had no mom. I had nobody there to teach me. Me and my siblings raised ourselves. We didn't take baths every day. We didn't. So she started raising her children the same way that she was raised. So she thought because she's present that she's better than her mom. But she didn't realize that she was really doing some of the same things. It was a generation of things, because they wasn't bathing. She wasn't taking care of them properly. She didn't realize that what she was doing was still a form of neglect. So what has to happen sometimes, you have to have a conversation to see where people are so you can have the resources to help them get out of where they are. So when I say my friend girl, she has a thing that she always say, childcare is a ministry. It is definitely that. And I feel like the ministry that this ministry It is so much bigger than childcare. It's so much bigger than taking care of children and learning the foundation. Sometimes you're not only impacting the children, you're impacting their parents too,
You're
because
impacting an entire community.
they don't know. They don't know. They don't know that every time they get a new boyfriend, John, every week they with John and John and Mister and all these different men, that it's not okay to let them pick your kids up for childcare, from the childcare center. It's your responsibility to say, hey, last week Jim picked them up. Now this week you're adding Bob. It's your responsibility to say, I'm not going to allow that. This is what we're going to do. We need some consistency in these kids' life, because some of these young parents, they don't know.
No,
Because their background, where they came from. So sometimes when we think about early childhood education, a lot of times they looking at the dollar amount, but they don't realize that the providers, the educators, we're more than just educators sometimes. Sometimes we're counselors, we're resources, we're parents to those who don't have parents. You're mentors for those who've never seen anybody that look like them, that know how to do things. Some young ladies don't know what direction they want to go, but it's our responsibility to say, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What do you want to do? Do you want to go to school to be a nurse? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to, if you want to do hair, let's get your license. Let's look into a technical school. Do you know how good it feels when I encourage parents to go back to school and they walk in my program and they say, Miss Daphne, I'm in the nursing program. They beat the door down and say, I'm in the nursing program. So when I tell you early childhood education is not only a mission that I'm on just for children, it's to impact the whole families, because some families just simply don't know. And it's our responsibility to educate them, to give them the resources. That's why you're supposed to have a resource department. That's why when a person walk in your program, you're supposed to have pamphlets to be able to tell them about firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand smoke. Because why? People don't know that smoking around kids affect kids. They think because they don't actually have the cigarette around them, or they not smoking it, it's okay. No, second and third hand smoke causes a lot of issues that's going on with children today.
Exactly. And they're just really not, they're just, people are running on automatic. And I'm so glad, and I hear the passion roar up in you. This is no, really. I mean, this is something that you live for. It's not just about the dollars and cents. It's not about that. And I have to make a little joke here a minute. They call you Daffy Duck, but honey, they should call you Bugs Bunny, because everybody ain't got cares like that. Okay, I'm looking at that bling. I'm looking at that bling, and I'm like, wow. Okay, but that is your blessing, and your blessing is bountiful, because not only do you run. How many centers do you have?
I have 5 centers, and I'm still counting.
Wow. And so you also mentor from the ground up, from A to Z, new women or men that want to open a child care center. You take them systematically through the program, how to apply for grants, how to apply for their license, how to set it up. And that's one of your gifts. You have what? How many businesses?
Me and my husband have about 5 different businesses.
See?
About
multiple
5
revenue streams, brains. Now we're gonna talk to the entrepreneur.
About 5 different businesses. I tell people all the time, early childhood education has afforded me the opportunity to be able to invest in other arenas. So the childcare side is my passion project. And I tell people that's my passion project. That's what I do because I love it. Everything else I do to be able to leave a legacy for my family. But childcare is what I do for passion. And so being able to take what I do in childcare and fund my legacy projects, it means a lot to me.
It does. And it shows. It really shows. Daphne, I want to thank you for being here with me on the edge, sharing this information with my brains, getting us fired up. Just taking it back to the basics. Don't overthink it, brains. You've got resources. If you are a young parent that is struggling, if you are, an unexpected pregnancy, if you have to make choices about adoption, if you have to make choices about, life or death, if you are in an abuse situation, reach out to people. Look at people like Daphne or her staff. Pull them to the side. Have a one-on-one. Say, you know what, this is more than I can handle. But don't abuse your babies. Don't mistreat them. They do not deserve that. They did not ask to come here. And I'm sure that you didn't ask for your situation either. And we're going to talk about the ones that are affluent. Reach out and mentor other young women that you see struggling. Again, like Daphne said, teach her how to wash clothes. Teach her how to come in and cook a good meal. Have a conversation. Don't assume. Because when you assume, you make an ass out of yourself. You don't know somebody else's story. You don't. And there is an opportunity for us to turn this thing called illiteracy and ignorance around. And it's just by asking questions and having a conversation like we've done here on The Edge. Daphne, please tell my brains how to get in contact with you. I'm in love with you.
You can reach me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is Daphene Booker Harris. And that's Facebook and Instagram. But I want to just say one thing to your audience before I leave. I want to just say, if you're listening and you see children around you and you see people around you that just need a little guidance, don't call your friend on the phone and talk to them about it I want to challenge you to do something to help change the lives of children, because we see so many kids going through so many things we see on the news, but it's simply because nobody took the time out to just show them that they care, to guide them in the right direction. And that's what early childhood education is about. I want to challenge you. It's not just for early childhood education. As humanities, as a human, right. It's our God-given right. It's our responsibility to make sure that our children is being guided in the right direction. So when you get a chance, pour something back into our youth. Let them know that they can be better than their current situation, because a lot of times they don't see anybody moving in a positive direction. But just one conversation, one word of advice and guidance, and just taking that time will change the life of our generations to come. That's it.
It will, and we got to up level them. We really do. We really do. Brains, I need you to love on yourself, be gentle with your kids, ask questions, get an education, do something special. Cuddle up with them with some popcorn, read them a book, okay? Or let them read to you. All right. Thank you so much, Daphne. You are the best.
Thank you.
Bye, Brains.